friends, thanks for joining me again, and today I want to talk to you about how to be a ninja. Of course not a real ninja, a homeschool ninja, so you can be skilled and succeed at homeschooling if that's something that you need or want to do in your life. So there are lots of times when people will homeschool, and unfortunately I've seen a lot of people homeschool and have it not really work out. They're not sure how much time it's going to take, they fall into a pitfall, which honestly, every single one of these pitfalls that I'm going to explain in this video, we have fallen into. And so I have firsthand experience on why these things become a pitfall to us homeschoolers and then how to overcome them. So anyway, I have some tips on how to make sure that you're successful, and basically you just don't go too far off to the right or too far off to the left, and you just stay steady with it and be as motivated as possible. Then it's very likely that you'll succeed at it. Okay, so this year, in addition to your regular curriculum, we're also going to do some added worksheets, maps and geography. We've got to do Spanish, of course, added history, singing. Don't overplan. You definitely don't want to have your children have too many things to do, and we have definitely fallen into this. I've looked at the curriculum book and thought, oh, this is no big deal. We can add all this other fun stuff to it. It never worked out great. So we mainly just stick to the original curriculum. If we have maybe one other thing we want to add to it, we can do that. But we don't want to go too overboard and add everything under the sun, because it's just not going to happen. The kids end up weighed down, and I end up weighed down, and we're too stressed, and we have lots, of things to do that we just don't have the time to successfully do. So definitely don't overplan for your kids. Girls, Mommy's really busy on this YouTube video. Why don't you just go play outside with some bugs and we'll call it science. The next would be not to neglect homeschool work. This is really important. I have fallen into this pitfall many a time, and so I've tried my best to make sure that I'm achieving balance as best as I can. So yeah, just basically make sure that you're staying on the homeschool work instead of finding other stuff to, be distracted with.
Here, Grandma Chicken, let's do this worksheet.
55-inch LED 3D HD TV offers $1082. Good luck, Joel. $850. Actual retail price is...
And speaking of distractions, limit the distractions for the kids as well. So not only do I get distracted, unfortunately, and I end up with stuff that I wish I could be doing, and this is probably my #1 problem that I deal with even today, is I have other things that I would rather be doing, and so sometimes I'll do that. But also the kids can get distracted. So anytime I have them doing homeschool work, I try to make sure they have no extra school supplies than what they actually need, so that they can't, dink around with the stuff that they have and play with it. But I also try to separate out the kids so that they're not too close together, because then they can't fight or distract one another either. We limit all the other distractions. We don't put TV on. I try my best not to put on a radio. I try my best not to do anything else that we need to do except for focusing on the homeschool, because distractions can be a huge motivation killer, and it can also make it to where we just don't get as much done in the day. Girls, it's 8 o'clock. It's time to get up and do some schoolwork. Girls, it's 8:30. It's time to get up and do some schoolwork. Girls, it's 9:30. It's time to get up and do some schoolwork. Girls, it's 10 o'clock. It's time to get up and do some schoolwork. The next would be not having a schedule. Not having a schedule is horrible for us. If we don't have a schedule, we'll just be like, oh, we'll just do it later in the day, and then later in the day comes and we don't do it, and then we're like, oh, we'll catch up later in the week, and then later in the week doesn't happen, and we're like, oh, we'll catch up later in the season. No, that was the very first pitfall I fell into the very first year. I was like, this is cool. Homeschool, you can adjust your schedule as needed. Unfortunately, that means I had family members who were telling me they wanted me to cut their grass and fix their fence and all this stuff, and then I had my own stuff to do, and I'm like, oh, I'll just garden and, whatever. All these different things that I wanted to do, and it made it to where we did not get our work done the way that we should have. What are you doing? Ever since your sister spilled milk this morning, we're 5 minutes late for schoolwork! Speaking of schedules, it's better not to have too rigid of a schedule though. So if we have, set in our minds we want to start between, 8 or 8:30, or even if you need a little more lax of a schedule between 8 and 9 or something like that, that's fine. But when it's like, no, we have to start at 7:30 on the dot, then when something happens, you end up stressed and feeling like, but what about the schedule? So having a schedule is important, but not too rigid of one. That way you have, some room for error in the event that life happens, because life is going to happen.
The hardest part about word problems is figuring out what you're supposed to do with the numbers, whether you're supposed to add or subtract.
The next would be to get help with the hard subjects. I'm not real good at teaching social studies. They like learning it, but I'm just not all that into it myself, and so I struggle with teaching it. And then math. While I love teaching them math, sometimes it's difficult for them to absorb, and I feel like they need more time and work in order to achieve the amount of math that they have to do. So when you need help with stuff, don't hesitate to ask other people, or even fall back on some different resources you have available to you. So YouTube videos have been helpful to us, DVDs from the library have been helpful to us. I've heard of some people who have, the other parent help, so the mom will teach 4 or 5 subjects, and then dad will come home and he'll teach 1 or 2 or whatever, a subject that he's better at and has the patience to help teach, just stuff like that. Or like that teaching textbooks thing I just showed you. Yeah, it's a nice math curriculum that we actually get from a program that I send my kids to once a week, and so that's totally free. It's on a bunch of DVDs. We can just pop that in the computer and they can work on it without my help, so I can be doing something else that's, productive, which is great for both of us, and then they get the extra help on the math that they need. So what do you want to do for school today?
I don't know. Maybe learn about birds.
What kind of birds?
Angry birds. This is my curriculum book.
Of course, I feel like it's really important to use a curriculum. I feel like without it, I feel pretty lost. There are many times when I've been going along in the curriculum and I'm like, oh yeah, I never would have thought of teaching that. So I know several, people who put together their own curriculums. I know a woman who put together her own curriculum, and it wasn't complete, so when her kids went to test, there were some things that she didn't include that they were supposed to know. And also, it ended up bogging down her time because she was writing up the worksheets and she was, having to write up the answer keys and all this. So it ended up with a lot of legwork on her part. So because it was so time consuming, it just didn't end up working out. I think she homeschooled her kids for like a year, and then they went right back into public school again, and it just didn't work out. So having a curriculum makes it to where there's a lot less work for us mom teachers or dad teachers, and it also makes it to where the kid is guaranteed to get the stuff that they need in a rounded way that we may not be able to provide for ourselves. Alright, so now that school is done, all I have to do is clean the kitchen, wipe the counters, sweep, mop, dust, vacuum upstairs, vacuum downstairs, do about 3 loads of laundry, clean the car, clean the bathroom, wash the dog, and make dinner. And of course, I think it's important to make the kids help with work, because if we're busy working with them on homeschool, why not make them help with the chores too? And even if they go to public school, kids should really learn some responsibility anyway. So it's a good thing to just have them be included and teach them, the chores and stuff like that they need to do. And you'd be surprised at how young a child can be when they start doing chores. And we just make it fun. We put on music, we do our little chore time, and yeah, then they get their free time afterward, and it all just works out really well. Less for me to have to be stressed out trying to do, and then, they learn something while they're at it. And speaking of having free time afterward, I do think it's important that we have a system of rewards and punishments in place. So when I actually have a reward for them, when you get a week done, we get to go to the library, which actually works out with the curriculum anyway, because what we do is we look ahead in our curriculum book of what we have to work on, and then we go to the library and we pick up resources on those things. That way when we go through the curriculum, we have everything we need in place and everything. So when they complete a week, we look ahead, we put together a book list, we put that together, we go to the library, and then they get some fun books, and it's just really fun for them. They love the library anyway, and so it's incentive for them to finish their week of school and not end up lagging and falling behind, because then they get to go out and play each day, and then at the end of the week they get to go to the library, which is of course, really good for them too. And then as far as punishments go, they wouldn't get to go to this homeschool program that they go to. And so they really like going and they like seeing their friends, so they don't want to be held back. But I tell them if they fall far enough behind, you know, which for us that's 2 weeks. If they fall 2 weeks behind in their curriculum book from where they're supposed to be, I'll hold them back that day. I'll take the other kid to the program and I will hold them back, and we'll do private tutoring all day that day, just one-on-one, and catch up on their schoolwork so that they can get back on track. So far that has not happened yet. They've fallen a little bit behind, a week, even up to a week and a half. You know, considering that's not too bad, but for the most part they haven't fallen back, you know, behind too far to where they've actually gotten to miss that program. So it's actually worked out pretty well. Providing both rewards and punishments is a lot of motivation to kids to help keep them going, and I know it helps a lot with my kids. So anyway, hopefully you found that video helpful to you, and you know, you got some insight on what we do and all the different pitfalls that we've fallen into that's made it unsuccessful for us in the past, and that we've had to get ourselves back on track and keep going with it. So, I'm Frugal Green Girl, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Was that pretty convincing?
Yeah.
Can you tell that it's yoga pants on my head?
No.
No? Alright. That was perfect then.
Should I turn it off?
Ugh.